we sponsored children in a school in a town called Santa Cruz, Baleña. We actually work with AMG, which is a missionary agency, and we sponsor children that enable them to go to the school. And then we work with a church that oversees that school. So sort of a partnership between AMG, the church, and the school there. We work with them in this rural town to minister for the name of Christ. And it's a great opportunity for us because we are able to visit these sponsored kids that we know, develop a relationship with them. We're able to teach them in the school, and we're also able to then see them in the church and work with the church in this community. So there's a lot of opportunity for ministry from in a variety of different ways. And so among those ways that we minister when we're there is to do child sponsorship home visits. So several on our team have children that they sponsor, and then there's several in our congregation that sponsor children. We visited all the children that, if someone had given us a gift from our church to give to a sponsored child, we'd visit their home, and we visited the home of the children we sponsor. So that was a big thing of what we did. We also taught lessons to the kids. So at the school, we taught several different classes, a curriculum throughout the week. Then we did a cultural visit in which we visited Guatemala City, Antigua, which is the tourist area, and also a place in Guatemala City called the Dump, and we're going to share about that as well. I taught at the church, preached there on Sunday, and then taught on 2 different occasions there for the leaders, and then on Wednesday I taught pastors from some of the area churches. We stayed at a place called Camp Canaan. We'll talk a little bit about that as well, and we had quite an opportunity there and experience while we were staying there. And then we had the opportunity just to work with our partners, AMG, and work with people that are in Guatemala. We're not bringing God to Guatemala. God is already in Guatemala, and we are simply partnering with people who are already working in the name of Christ there. And then along the way, when we're ministering in all of these ways, we grew spiritually. I believe that we had some lasting lessons in our lives and ways that the Lord really worked in our own hearts. And so that's part of our story tonight. And then finally, we just want to talk about next steps after all of that. So we're going to walk through that together. This is relatively informal. We haven't had a lot of time since the trip to polish a presentation, but we just pray that you will hear our hearts and that you'll see the nation of Guatemala for what it is, or hear a little bit of that at least, and see how God is working there. So let's bow in a time of prayer, and then we're going to share all of these things. Our Father, we thank you for who you are. You are a great God who created all things. And though we have sinned against you, you have made a way that we might be reconciled to you through the person of Jesus Christ, who is Lord of all and who is the one name under heaven by which all men might be saved. We thank you for the privilege of making disciples of all nations. We thank you for the privilege of our team being able to go to Guatemala and speak to people about the precious name of Christ, and to be able to work alongside your children there, those who know you and who desire that the name of Christ would be lifted high in that community. We thank you for the privilege of working along with them and for encouraging them, but also for the encouragement that we received. We do pray that there would be lasting fruit from our trip, both there in Baleña and in our hearts. And we also pray, Father, that there would be lasting fruit in our church, that you would encourage others to go, even through this time tonight. Pray, Father, that you would help those who may not feel comfortable always sharing in front of a larger group. I pray, Lord, you'd give them peace and help them to share your heart with these people. And I pray, Father, that we would all be about your mission, that our lives would be given to that so that you might be glorified in this earth. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. So the first thing I just wanted a couple of us, or a few of us, to share is really about the home visits. And by home visits, again, I mean we visited the homes of the sponsored children. And several of you gave us gifts to give to children. We visited those homes, gave those gifts, as well as the children that we sponsored. And so a couple of you volunteered to share for that. You want to go first?
before we left, we knew that we wanted to sponsor a child, and we had not yet sponsored a child. And so we started praying about that and looked up on the website at the kids, and we really felt led that we should wait until we got there, and that God would somehow just match us with the right child. So we got there, and on the first school day, we met with Eddie, which is the school principal, and just told him our hearts. And we said we don't have a specific age or gender, but we just wanted, God to match us up with the child. And so later that day, he introduced us to a little 5-year-old little boy, and his name is Fenner, I think. His name is hard to say.
It's spelled like Ferner,
Yeah.
like the plant fern with an ER, but you have to say it in Spanish, so it's Ferner.
And he was so sweet. He's got little dimples, and he was so shy, which is unusual because most of the kids there will just latch onto you and just hug you. But he was very shy, wouldn't hardly even look at us. And so we just took every opportunity, even during recess, to play with him. And he liked to do the sidewalk chalk and just slowly trying to warm up to him and him warm up to us. And I think by the second day, you saw a picture where he started giving us high fives. And so that was just really sweet to see that, he was becoming more comfortable and willing to do that. I think it was by Thursday, we went Thursday morning, and they did a little presentation. And I could see as soon as we started walking down the steps to where the kids were, he was already looking for us, and as soon as he saw us, he got this big smile on his face. And as they were doing the presentation, he kept peeking behind the kids looking for us, and he would smile at me and then kind of hide back. And it was just sweet to see that there was a relationship starting to build, and that he recognized us and knew who we were. And that night, we got to visit his family, and his mom and his dad, and he has a little baby sister. And we were able to purchase some little gifts before we went, and we had got him he liked helicopters. That's all he would draw on the sidewalk was helicopters. So we had got him a book and a new shirt, and it was shocking that the thing that he held on to was the new shirt. And even in the picture, that's what he's hanging on to. It's not the toy or the books, but it was the new little shirt that he had. And before we left, he gave me a hug, and that just meant so much to me because it's just the start of a relationship, and just knowing that that's something that can continue. And his mom is due with her 3rd child in September, and she asked us to pray about that, and pray for a healthy pregnancy and a safe delivery. So that's just special. I would encourage anybody to, if you haven't already sponsored a child, to sponsor a child. It really means a lot to them. While I'm up here, I was going to go ahead. I wanted to share with you our journey leading up to the trip. I also went on a senior trip when I was in high school. We went to Venezuela, so that was my first senior trip, and it was just life-changing for me and totally changed my perspective before I was an adult, went out in the real world. And I always say, when I have kids, I want them to do that before they graduate. I want them to go on a senior trip, in order for, on a missions trip. And when we first came last year, the Guatemala team was getting ready to head out. And I was like, oh, I can't wait to do that. I hope the Lord lets us do that. And it was like, man, Ethan's graduating in 4 years. We got 4 years to really pray about that and plan. And so we started just kind of, in the back of our minds praying about it. And the Lord just kind of impressed that he wanted us to go sooner. And it wasn't going to be 4 years. And so we really started praying about it. And I think during our membership process, we asked the elders to pray about it with us, and that the Lord would provide a way, because me being a warrior, I had many concerns. How in the world can we afford that? And I was like, we don't have the money for passports. Our passports had run out. And Mike really encouraged us, just take that first step of faith, and work on the passports, take it one step at a time. And if God really wants you to go, he'll make a way. And that was in January, I think, and by mid-March, he had provided that, and we were setting off our passport applications. And during that time, we still were praying about, Lord, is just one of us should go, or 2 of us, or all of us? And I think when we got those 5 passports in the mail, it was like we knew that God wanted all 5 of us to go as a family. And so then it just started a journey of just God showing us how faithful he was, and that even when we couldn't see a way of how he was going to make it all work out, that step by step, he made it work out, and he supplied everything that we needed to go. And it was just neat. It seemed like all throughout the way, it was like walk by faith. Everywhere I turned, I saw the Bible verse, walk by faith, not by sight. Or I'd open up my phone and somebody had posted on Facebook, walk by faith, not by sight. And I was like, Lord, you're really trying to teach me not to worry, because I'm a worrywart. And so it was just neat to show that God is faithful, and that if he does lead you to go, and he'll work it all out. And real quick, another one of my worries was that I was going to get sick. So I had a little mini drugstore in my suitcase, and I thought I had it all planned out. It was all going to be great. And I was the first person that got sick on the first night. And then Emily had gotten sick too, so we stayed home that Sunday afternoon. And we had met the director's wife, Orpha, just briefly the night before, and Emily and I were asleep, and she comes knocking on the door and brings us soup in bed. And it was just such an act of love from somebody I had barely even met. And here she was showing us love and kindness. It just really touched me deeply. And it was just like God was saying, you worried about this, and you worried about this, and you worried about this, and I got it all worked out. It's going to be okay. And so that was just really impression on my life throughout this trip, and something that God's still working me on, to just have faith and to trust.
Douglas was in North Carolina today when we were talking about who was going to speak about what, so I'm going to put him on the spot here. I wanted him to, here you go. I wanted you to share, you visited with Stephen Longus child. I wanted you to share a little bit about that experience at their home perhaps, and then also at the church.
Well, as soon as they found out, the Spencers found out I was going to Guatemala, they were like, you gotta save a spot, you gotta save a spot, you gotta save a spot for Pablo. And I was like, okay, cool, I can do that, just like, okay. And the whole time they're going doing the home visits, and like Alan goes to Celine's house, and Chris goes to, not Kimberly, Wendy's house anyways. And they're, it's their kids that they took stuff for. And I was kind of like, well, this is, and I made sure through Samuel, our translator, that Pablo and his grandmother knew that it wasn't from me, it was from, the Spencers. But that kid, even though, they weren't there, y'all weren't there, he knew it was from y'all, and he just, everything I opened up, even that Georgia Bulldog shirt, he was just like, and the big old blanket that he got, he just kept putting it up against his face, and it's just like, it's like, oh man. And the cool thing about Pablo is, well, it's not cool things and not cool things. His mother works 12-hour shifts with the nurse at the hospital, so she's in and out. His grandmother takes care of him there. His father actually got put in jail recently for 7 years for missing a probation date or some sort. He had been accused of stealing from buses, so his dad's not in the picture. I gave Pablo a huge hug because, one way we can show God's love, even when we think we're not doing anything, you can show God's love physically just by hugging a kid. And it meant a lot to him, and I gave him, everything they'd given me, and I forgot the picture Bible. I left the picture Bible at the camp. I was like, crap, I've got it. This is the most important thing. He can do without the Georgia shirt. He's got to have the Bible. So we end up going, okay, we're going to go to the church first, and then we're going to go back, days later, we're going to go back and see Pablo again. So we go to the church, and I got the Bible ready to go. We're going to go see it after, and I turned around, and Pablo's sitting right there with his mom, like 6 rows behind us. I was like, sweet, I can give it to him now. So I go back there and start to talk to Pablo and his mom. His mom ends up telling me that the dad called like the day before and was so thankful that we had come and that y'all had got things for Pablo. And this little kid sat there. There's probably 460, 470 pages in that little picture Bible. And that kid, I sat back the whole time Chris was preaching about. I have no idea what you preached about that day. I'm sorry. I kept switching him from knee to knee because he wasn't that light. He was killing my knee. But he sat through and looked at every single one of those pages. If he missed a page, it's because it was kind of stuck together because it was brand new. But he sat there and he was pointing at stuff, and I was trying my hardest in the little Spanish I know. The little Spanish I know, I mean, he literally, that's like page 1. That's the earth being made right there. Yeah, every single page. And we got to Paul, which is Pablo in Spanish, So, I showed him that one, which was, 300-something pages into it. But he sat there, and the other thing I want to tell you all about is when you go to a trip and you don't feel like anything's getting through to the kids, like some of the kids at the school, we taught them hand motions and stuff, and then we asked them at the end of the day, whatever, if you guys have questions for us, ask questions. Well, none of my kids ever asked questions, so I got super bummed out. At the end of the week, little Pablo is sitting in my lap, and after he went through the whole Bible and set it down for a little bit, he started playing with his cards, y'all got him, And then we did 8 hand motions. He did all but one hand motion. This kid's 6 or 7 years old. Did every single hand motion except for one. I had to show it to him, and then he got it after that. And then he sits there, and we did the gospel bracelets, the good news bracelets with the yellow bead and white bead, and sat there in Spanish and told me every single one of those, that he had learned throughout the week. And I'm sitting there like, okay, Lord, if this little 7-year-old's got it, the rest of them got it. And it was cool of that, in that respect. And once again, just being able to love on him was awesome. So thank you all for that.
This is my 4th trip, so all I want to say about my visit is that today, just when I was thinking about our trip, I'm not an emotional person, but I get emotional every time I start thinking about our family in Guatemala, and not just my child, but really our family, our church family and our school family. But each year, I just feel like it's family coming home for a visit. When I got to Wendy's house this year, her mother was standing at the door waiting on me, and just with big hugs, and it's just like that every year. It's like that we are coming together as a family. And this year, it was her birthday, had been a few days prior, and so we all got a little special treat because she brought in this big birthday cake that we got to share, and that's just a huge thing for them, that she spent her money on this cake for us, and just wanted to share that part of her life with us. So that's just all I wanted to say, is that it's, when we were leaving, I got to go for a second visit to take some things, and they had their finest clothes on, and it was just such a big deal for them, for us to come, and we just know they have no idea what it means to us, but we are such a big deal for them going, and they're just so appreciative, and you can see it on their faces and everything while we're there. So that was just a special time this year with Wendy.
When you sponsor a child, you get this little placard or thing you put on your refrigerator, and it seems so impersonal. You realize there's a child there, but you just feel kind of sort of detached from them. Don't really know what's going on in their lives or anything like that. So when you walk into their home, the paper becomes reality, and you start to learn a little bit about the context that the child that you're sponsoring lives in day to day. What is their life? What's going on? So one of the most impactful things that I took away with is I know how to pray for my sponsored children now. Both Selvin and Hilda, both of their fathers are alcoholics, and so their mothers are struggling. One is sick with a stomach issues, and the other one is just struggling to provide for the family. So when I walked into Selvin's house and I seen his mother and his brother, and being able to hear his story of when you asked, is this way with every one of them? When you asked the mother, because that's usually who was present, how can we pray for you? The mothers would just be so open and honest about what was going on in their family, and petition God to intervene in those situations. And so it was really emotional. Here's a 9-year-old kid who his dad's not there, and his mom sick, can't work, and you see where he lives, and you think, it changes the way you read your Bible. I was reading this, and just think about this. The Lord is a stronghold for the oppressed. a stronghold in times of trouble. And those who know you put their trust in you, for you, O Lord, have not forsaken those who seek you. What do you think it means for Selvin to understand those words, that God is a refuge to him, He's a stronghold, He's a very present help in time of need? And so that's what I wanted to, it's what I pray for him every day, that God would show Himself strong in behalf of those families. And I even wrote out the verses in Spanish and told him, just like I tell my kid now, at what time I am afraid, I will put my trust in you. And so I try to leave him with, I'm leaving, but God hasn't left you, Selma. God is present with you and active in your life. And so it just, it changes the way you see the connection between you and your sponsored children. It's not giving $32 and that be the end of it. There's an investment in it. There's a prayer and heartfelt petition that God would intervene and show Himself strong in those children and families' lives. So, if you sponsor children, it's a great privilege to be able to do that. But even a greater privilege is to go and putting the face to face and saying, I invest in you, and I'm committed to you, and will be committed to you. And just that kind of connection is real. And they are blown away by whatever you give. Whatever it is.
So a little context there with sponsored children. When you sponsor a child for $32, and this is not a commercial, we don't make any money here, it's just that we're sold on it because we were there and we saw the difference. And it's hard not to convince people to spend $32 a month when you see the kind of difference that it makes in their lives. These are children that wouldn't necessarily even go to school at all. I mean, they're 5-year-olds working out in the field. And there are, in most cases, you might have a family of 8 or 9 kids, up to 12 kids or so, and one of them may go to school, and it may be the child that you sponsor. And so for $32 a month, they have the opportunity to, they have shoes provided, clothes provided for them, they have meals provided for them every day. And it's just hard to convey to you how significant that $32 is. When you see it in person, it's an argument all to its own. You just recognize that this is nothing. I blow $32 on a lot of other kinds of lesser realities, and this child, Pablo is in school, and now he can tell you the gospel based on the bracelet he's been given. I mean, that in and of itself is worth $32 a month, right? And the fact that they're clothed, and now they take this gospel home. Ferdinand, the child that they sponsored when we went to his home, one of the crafts that we did in class, he had on the wall, put it on the wall. So we know that they're taking it home to their parents as well. So this is a really significant reality in their lives. I want to quickly tell you about a couple families in particular since we're here, the Babs. We visited Victor is their child. We went to Victor's home. There are 9 children in that family. And the mom, it's pretty remarkable there's several remarkable dynamics when you come to a home visit. First of all, you think that, but because you're from you're outsiders coming from a different culture, etc., they might sort of be withdrawn and close up. But as Alan said, they really open their hearts to you. I think your coming is such a big deal to them because they don't have visitors from outside. It's a rural town and very few mission teams visit them. Most of them have never had anyone visit their home. So when you come, that in and of itself is very significant. And then we spend the first few moments telling them how much we love them and care for them, how much we pray for them and think about them, how much their sponsors care for them. We give them gifts and tell them that those gifts are representations of Christ's love for them, and that's the whole reason that we're there. And then we ask to pray for them. And when we ask to pray for them, that's often when they'll open up and tell us things that are really from the bottom of their heart. So, for example, with the Babs, speaking about Victor, she's a mom of 9 children. Her husband is an alcoholic, and he has spent their money, wasted their money, and put another mortgage on the home. And by a home, I mean something made out of sheet metal. And she was just just weeping to us, telling us that she was going to lose her home. So she's going to lose her home with 9 children, and her husband's an alcoholic. And she just feels hopeless. And this is not a situation where you go get food stamps to go spend at the grocery store. There are no food stamps. There's no welfare system. Imagine having 9 children and just being homeless. And so she was pouring out her heart to us. We got an opportunity to pray. But we also had the opportunity to convey the Baptist love for them, and that we would communicate to them, and that their sponsors would be praying for them. That meant a significant amount. We also got an opportunity to talk to them about the church that we work with down there. In fact, she attends the church, and the church is working with her to somehow sort things out. It's complicated because you can't just give them a new house. Sometimes it's not the best answer, and partly because you might not be doing the community the best. Beyond that, if you're giving a new house to an alcoholic husband and father, you might end up in the same predicament not long from then. So working with the church is the way to do that. And so we've asked the church to work with them and then to convey to us what we might do. We feel responsible. It's our sponsored child. So anyway, that's an opportunity. But Victor gets to come out of that home with an alcoholic father and spend half his day at a school with teachers who love him. Teach him the Word of God, teach him school, give him an opportunity to be outside of that. And even while I was praying, she was pouring out her heart, and then I began praying for her, and the translator's translating in Spanish, and lo and behold, I turn around and her husband's behind us, hearing the prayer, and I was praying explicitly, didn't know he was there. But I was glad for that. I was glad that he witnessed that, and maybe the Lord will use that. And we went up and shook his hand and told him we're glad to meet him and that sort of thing, but we can continue to pray for them. Went to the Burns sponsored child home, and when we went to that home, on the wall was Roman Catholic paraphernalia. I could tell they were Catholic. Much of the community is Roman Catholic, at least in name. Many don't attend, but it's just sort of born that way, at least in their own thinking. And she was telling us in tears again about how her husband has come over to the States. They will take out a loan, several $1,000s, and I think in this case maybe $10,000 they'll take out a loan in order for one of them to get to the States. And the goal is to get here and to work, to find some sort of occupation so that they can make enough money to pay off the debt, but also make enough money that they can bring that money back with them so that their family can have a different life in Guatemala. That's the goal. And she was hopeful that he would be back in 5 years. But our translator, our guide while we were there said most of the time it's more like 10 years before they get back because it takes a lot longer for them to overcome the debt. And while he's been in the States, he's gotten ill and he fell and hurt himself. And so she was just crying because he can't work right now. They have all this debt. He may have to come home prematurely, and then they're going to be saddled with all of this debt. So again, situation that sounds so difficult and is difficult, but we got to convey the love of Christ to her. And that child is in that school, being loved on and taken care of, clothed, etc., and taking the gospel back home to her parents. So another great opportunity there. These stories just could be repeated in every home virtually that we went to. But we're grateful that you gave us the gifts to convey to them. We went on your behalf, and they saw it that way. We talked about you. We told them about you. And, the Myers aren't here, and I won't share much about theirs other than to say when we were at the Myers girls' home, she brought out all the notes that they had written her in English, and they hadn't been translated. And she'd kept them all,